I want to, first of all, thank you all for joining us for our virtual press conference here this morning. This press briefing is intended to maximize the amount of time that we'll have to drive together next week. And we haven't seen each other for a long time, so we're really excited to actually see you in person and get you to drive some of our newest and greatest cars. As you know from the invitation, we'll have the revised 5 Series there, including also the new M5. We'll have the all-new 4 Series available for you to drive on the track as well as on the road. The first ever Alpina XB7, which is a very exciting product also for us and important to the US market. And last but not least, the first ever M2 CS, bringing the M2 to a whole new benchmark here. We have our product planning team here from the US to talk about their respective products. Ralph Mahler, who's head of product planning, will be joining us for the event next week. He's unfortunately not able to join us here today. John Kelly, who heads up M products for the US, Mike Baxley, who will be talking about Alpina, Dustin Kearns on the 5 Series, and John Quinn with the 4 Series product manager. From the Corp Com side, we've got Tom Plazinski, who's responsible for BMW, Mini, and Motorrad here in the US. Oleg, who's responsible for BMW product communications, and of course myself also. We would like to ask you to please hold all questions till the end of all of the presentations to ask your questions. You'll also have an opportunity, of course, to do individual interviews with our product experts on site next week in Monticello. So however you'd like to do it, but we'd be happy to take as many questions as you'd like at the end of the presentation. One last housekeeping measure, we'd ask you to please keep your microphones on mute till we've completed the presentations, and then we'll address your questions one at a time. I hope this works for you. Thank you for joining us. And without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Dustin to start off with the presentation on the 5 Series.
Awesome, thanks, Alex. I think my name's Dustin Kearns. I'm the 5 Series product manager here in the US, and we'll take you through the new 5 Series today, which started production just a few months ago. So I think everybody here you'll hear a good bias from everybody about why their products are some of the best ones that we have. But I'm pretty sure I'm right when I take you through 5 Series and M5 today. So some quick overarching takeaways on the 5 Series redesign that came here in July. So first thing that you see when you look across the car, we had a great product already, and we'll show you some of the differences going forward. But we sharpened the appearance and made it much more modern and clean looking. So there's a very recognizable redesign, including kidney grille, front bumper, headlights, and taillights. And we'll show you kind of those all in detail as we move on. Second, in the interior, we've made some really noticeable enhancements. First, what you see right when you sit in the car is the larger touchscreen central display. And it's grown by about 2 inches over the previous model. Second, we have a new perforated Sensitech material. This is one that really on our base seat has been enhanced with a lot of new features, from perforations to contrast stitching, contrast piping, all of this that give it a much more luxurious look and feel. And last, our high gloss black elements that are in the center stack that make it even more dynamic and sporty on the inside. Third thing is that this is, as this car launched, it was really the digital flagship of BMW. So contributing to that overall modernization story, we have some great external technologies that we've integrated, including Android Auto and Spotify, but also our internal systems have been improved for this as well. And the last one, we have some boosted efficiency and performance. So we'll have the 48-volt technology that's coming to the 540 models, and then extra boost for the 530 models that gives us some additional on-demand horsepower for short bursts and improves the acceleration. So here you can see the car that we had, the outgoing generation. So a really great product, one that we had really were able to take a lead in and we're really happy with the way that it was performing. So we wanted to keep the essence of this car and really bring it into the modern design language. So you can see here the real eye catcher, as normally is the case, is our kidney grille. So you can see the changes, and that now we have this seamless design from one central or one connected frame. This has been really nicely integrated, and it's grown a little bit towards the street, but in a very balanced way. So it sits a little bit more, that gives it a different stance, that makes it seem a little bit more upright and gives it a little bit more presence. And at the same time, what I really am excited about is the way that this is integrated and connecting to the headlights here. So you can see the headlights are designed in a way with this L-shaped light tube. That gives it a very modern, very geometric design, and all of this flows together in a really nice pattern. So one thing that we can add both of these now to both the kidney grille and the headlights is the darkened package. So you'll see black kidney grille available on this for the first time with darker headlights. So here in this image here, you see the shadow line or the laser lights with the blue eyebrow on the top. Unfortunately, that's not available in the US, but you can replace that with either the standard silver or with the black design that has a really harmonious flow with the rest of the car and complements the kidney really nicely. One last thing on the front redesign. Here you see the color in Phytonic blue, which I think what you'll have at Monticello is in white, but the bumper has been redesigned here to give it some more body color, more geometric, and allow for some even bigger air intakes on the bottom part. So we took what we had on the front of the car and made those same kind of harmonious redesigns into the rear of the car. So here you see what we had before the LCI, the M Sport package on the car here. And, again, very sporty, very modern. We wanted to maintain what we had pre-LCI and make that even better with the LCI. So the key highlight here when you look from the backside are those taillights again. So there's dark casing around the outside in a 3D design. So this really emphasizes kind of the contours and the sculpted look on the rear of the car. And it's complemented and really flows together with the rest of the bumper with our good lines, good geometry, and really giving it that modern appearance. One more thing in the rear that you can see here is freeform exhaust pipes, which are now standard across all vehicles. And if you're moving into the black kidneys on the front, you'll also get the blackened tailpipes on the rear. So moving into the interior of the car, one thing that's, again, you notice it immediately when you sit down, it's the eye catcher, is the growth in the central display. So we've gotten about 2 inches larger there, and it's equipped with our latest BMW iDrive 7 and our newest, our kind of latest and greatest technology. So all of this is housing the great technology upgrades that we have from external parties, including Spotify integration, Android Auto for the first time, and of course, Apple CarPlay. These navigation for these different external systems, you can now see within both your digital instrument cluster right above the steering wheel and in the head-up display. So a very seamless experience, whether you're looking at your central display, your digital instrument cluster, or the head-up display, all of those providing that information that you need right at a glance. We've also got the latest driver's assistance package, and this is the same thing that you would see on our larger X models and on the 3 Series as well. One product highlight on the interior here, and I had a look, this isn't going to be on the car that you guys have at Monticello. Could we go back one, Oleg? Yeah. Yep, could we go forward one? Great. So what we see here is the latest advancements in our Sensitech synthetic material. So on the left side, you can see what we had in model year 20. And on the right side, you can see what we have in model year 21. So this difference is really night and day. It's giving it a much more luxurious look and feel. So you can see a much more intricate pattern that's designed into the backrest and into the seat. There's also perforations, contrast stitching, and contrast piping. So all these again are giving our customers a really good value and an awesome look and feel. So now we'll move on to what you're probably more excited about as you get headed to the track, is the M5. So the M5 is, you're going to see here we have the outgoing version, and we've really followed the same logic, the same ideas going to the new M5. So this is all about keeping what was great and modernizing it, really making it more clean, more modern, more sharp. And here, I mean, you see it right at the start. This looks awesome. The front kidney grille is one that, again, has grown in the right places, down towards the street a little bit to give it a little more presence. You see these exclusive M double kidney bars with a nice angle that gives it, again, kind of builds in to the, the harmonious nature. Even as you see the contours that are in the hood are almost perfectly aligned coming into the kidney grille. So all of this, you see great harmony across headlights to grille to other features and body contours that are all built in here together. Looking at the rear, we see kind of we'll see a similar story here. So we had a great product before that was really well received. And now what we've done, we've made the changes, made it more modern, and made it, even more aggressive, even more sporty looking at the rear. Here you see, again, the same kind of form and design language that we had on the 5 Series, this outline of the headlights rather, that gives it this super aggressive look from the back. We have the competition model shown here, and all of these are standard with our competition model. And that's also what you'll have at the track. So you see again, rear bumper design. Again, you see all of the lines that are coming throughout the car are harmonious. Everything is working together. They're integrated really well on the same plane and really contributing to one impressive design story. So when you get in the interior of the car, again, following one of the same keys, as you see that much bigger center information display. So I know when you're driving your M cars, can get a little bit aggressive. Having a bigger, more accessible information right there at right there that's available is something that'll be really helpful. Again, it helps to house all of these great new features that we're bringing from external integration of those Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, Spotify, and our internal systems that have been upgraded here. The other thing that I'm sure, one last thing on this, only because I think this will be really important for you guys when you get to the track tomorrow, or on Monday rather, or next 2 weeks, is track mode. So the first time that we've been able to introduce track mode, and this is available on our competition cars, what you see is this helps to really take the driver's attention and focus it on the road. So all of your distractions are eliminated. It's taking away your driver's assistance programs. It's blackening the CID in the middle, turning that completely off, and muting your audio. So when you're ready to really punch it and go for, to test the limits of the car, hold down your M mode button, put it in track mode, and take off. And that's it for me. So thanks to everybody there. And we'll pass it over to John Quinn to let you know a little bit more about the 4 Series.
Thank you, Dustin. Very nice. And I think one of the nice things about working at BMW, and particularly working on the product team, is that, all of our products are great. But I think, like having a child, you're always partial to the products that you work most with. And of course, I'm partial to, in this case, the 4 Series. We've been working on the development of the new 4 Series for the past years, and we're really happy to actually finally have this car launched and be on the road. The official launch of this car is actually tomorrow, but I have seen a few on the road already, so it looks like some dealers and some customers have gotten a little happy and have figured out a way to retail a couple of them. But anyway, my name is John Quinn. I am the 4 Series product manager, also responsible for the 3 Series, the X3, the X4, and the Z4. And I just want to take a few moments to talk about this car. It's been out there for a while. It has caused a lot of stir. and we think that the stir is going to be positive in the long run for the life cycle of this car. But just want to take a few moments to give you a refresher prior to actually having the experience to drive the car next week, both on the street and on the track. And so, Oleg, if we can just scroll through a couple of these pictures, because design was really one of the core elements behind this car. And I think that's behind any car, but that was really an important focus for the overall product team or project team in Germany throughout the process for the development of this car. So if you look at the surface language of the new 4, the designers really focused on this interplay between the sharply sculpted volumes with the highly precise contours that really adds to this general athletic and luxurious look. And on the sides of the car, you can see the swage line, and it's just lower than most other cars, or the character line, that is. This run between the wheel arches, and actually there's another one even further lower that really kind of accentuates the general road presence of the 4 Series. Another really nice thing to look at here from a proportion perspective is the stretched roof line, and it gently slopes back toward the trunk of the car and really provides it with this modern yet sporty appearance. And I think finally, and another important thing, I think here for a coupe, it's important to have those really aggressive rear wheel arches. And that's done so by the passenger compartment that is really tucked back and really blends well into the back of the car. And, you know, it does a good job of showing how the air could flow over the car in general. And I think like the front, the rear is dominated with a lot of clear surfaces and fewer lines there. Now on the house slide, if we can jump ahead just a few, Oleg, here. You know, one of the comments that I hear most about the 4 Series, and even though it's been out for about 7 years already, is, you know, what is the 4 Series exactly, especially from new customers who are coming into our brand. And they ask, you know, is it just a 3 Series coupe that they may have had in the past? And I think the answer to this, and in this generation, in comparison to previous generations, is certainly no. And I can definitely say that the car has grown not only in size, but really into this unique model that really embodies the bold, aggressive design, and in my opinion, is combined more importantly with the enhanced sportiness and dynamic driving that you would expect from a BMW, and really truly separates itself from the pack with the best in segment driving dynamics. And I think this slide does a pretty good job of illustrating that in a pretty easy way and easily understandable way. You know, the 3 Series is the foundation of our company's success, and it's been around since 1975, and it's currently in its 7th generation. You know, and up until now, I think the 3 Series has really formed the perception of most of our customers and even our critics and anybody who associates anything with BMW. They usually associate the 3 Series with it. And I think without this really strong foundation, we wouldn't have been able to expand our portfolio to this extent. And in this particular case, the 4. And I think in this new generation of the 4 Series, it really builds even on the great foundation of the 3 Series that we have today, predominantly in 2 really important areas, like I just mentioned, one being the bold design and 2 being the enhanced sportiness. And this really, we believe, firmly establishes this new 4 Series as the ultimate driving machine with the best in class driving dynamics in its segment. And on the next slide, if you wouldn't mind, Oleg, I want to give you kind of a glimpse into how we were thinking through the development process of this car over the years. And of course, there are 3 core things here that were front and center. One was design and dynamics, and those kind of played an even role in terms of our thinking. And third, of course, with technologies that you know, is important in any modern car. But in terms of design, and you know, I haven't talked about it yet, but it's something that we are you know, expecting to see good results with in the next years or so throughout the life cycle of the car, is the kidney grille. And it is you know, a very large kidney grille, and it is different. And this is something that we were very careful with in terms of how we were designing it, because our customers were asking for something different. And one of the things they were asking for is a differentiation between the 3 Series and the 4 Series. And there's probably no easier way to do that, you know, most in your face, than creating a different design on the exterior. And that's exactly the approach that we took here. You know, and the vertical style kidney grille is nothing new to the BMW group. If you look at our history, you know, in the past we had the 328, the 326, the 501, the 502, a lot of cars, you know, back 50, 60, 70 years ago that had this vertical style kidney grille, and we're not afraid to actually, you know, venture out and try different style kidney grills looking at, one of my favorite BMW models, the 507. Once I think this car is seen in person, and once we see it on the street, and I think throughout the life cycle of this vehicle, a lot of customers and a lot of people will come to appreciate the bold step that we took in design, because when you see the car in person, it really does a good justice to actually how the overall car fits together, including the kidney grille. Now, in terms of the dynamics of the car, the car has been improved on many levels, and especially in comparison to the predecessor. We've done things where we've stiffened the chassis, we've stiffened many components, both under and behind sheet metal that you can't see, that really provides for great dynamics, but also it provides for a uniqueness compared to the 3 Series, and in particular the M340, which has already received great reviews from many customers and from a lot of press. And this really allows for the dynamic driving. And a couple of other things about the 4 Series, it actually has an increased track width in the front and in the rear, that really, again, provides for this uniqueness in comparison to the 3 Series, and builds on top of that great foundation that we have. And I think from a technology perspective, I won't spend too much time here because Dustin already did a nice job of running through most of those new technologies that BMW has, and those are all going to be incorporated into the 4 Series that we are launching tomorrow. Now, on the next slide, in terms of the overall proportions, while it has grown in size, we really do believe that it's grown in all of the right places, both for dynamics and also for aesthetics. And compared to its predecessor, the new car has grown 5 inches in terms of overall length and 1 inch in terms of overall width. And this makes it really appear more elongated, more luxurious, and dynamic, at least as what I think, and a lot of our customers and people on the forums and online have mentioned so far. And this impression is really enforced by the typical icons of the BMW short overhangs, and the longest coupe doors that we offer actually at BMW. And where the car grows in ways to help it perform is especially in the front track. And I think that you'll notice that, like I mentioned, in comparison to the 3 Series, provides some unique and even enhanced handling over that car. And on the next slide, I just wanted to kind of introduce you to one of the dynamic differences of the 4 Series. And I can talk to this slide a lot, but I think it's best for me to let you experience the car, both on the street and, in my opinion, more importantly, on the track, and really test the car, and it happens. We're tracking the weather there on Monday. It's going to be interesting, but it should be a really good test of this car, and we're really confident that through the hours and hours and hours of testing that we've gone through, that this car is going to perform great in any weather condition that you might experience. So be on the lookout for some of the differences there that you might feel compared to the 3 Series, and for the improvements in steering and the overall dynamics of the car. And with that, there are just a couple of fast facts. The 430i and the 430i xDrive, and also the M440i xDrive are the cars that are launching tomorrow. The rear-wheel drive version of the M440i, which is a treat for the US market that we fought a lot for to get, is coming in July of next year. So I would say be on the lookout for these cars on the road. If you haven't seen them already, hopefully you haven't, but they should be start to trickling out there onto into customer hands. And I would really encourage you to really test this car and put it through its paces next week, because I'm really enthusiastic about everything that the 4 Series has become in this new generation. And with that, I will pass it over to Mike, who's going to talk about a new and exciting Alpina product.
Thanks, John. So my name is Mike Baxley. I am the product manager for the X7 and therefore also the Alpina XP7 that we are launching into the market basically as we speak. So this car went into production a couple months ago, and it will start retailing within the next couple days, actually. Before I dive into that, I just wanted to give a brief overview of Alpina and what Alpina is and what they mean for BMW and how we interact with each other. So in general, this is the Bovensieden family. In the middle, you'll see Burkhard, who founded the company, and Andy on the left, and Florian on the right. So this is the family of Alpina. and they founded this company in 1965 in Buchloe, Germany. And one interesting fact about them is that they actually built their factory around their house. So they live on site. Well, actually, two of them live on site. I don't believe Andy lives there at this point in time. But really, they are embedded in the brand and what they represent. So Burkhard, he actually started the company as a typewriter company. He only really transitioned into cars because he started adding carburetors to his BMW, and he found that with that additional carburetor, he could get 10% more output. So from there, he just actually started creating kits. So it's basically a dual Weber carburetor and a crankshaft. And this is a photo of the early days at Alpina, where they would put these kits together and send them to customers through the mail. So really, they were like really embedded in BMW right from the early stages. And when you actually look at the logo of Alpina, the logo is actually a dual Weber carburetor and a crankshaft. So this has been really the core of the brand. And they've kept this logo over time, and you'll actually see it on cars today. So Alpina is a really well-designed and it's efficient company, I would say. So they really only have about 270 employees, predominantly in engineering and production. And with these 270 employees, they produce about 1,700 Alpinas per year. And with the XB7 launching quite soon, this number is obviously going to go up. So just a couple milestones from the company. What you'll see here is the Alpina B6. So this was produced in 1978, and it was based on the E21 3 Series. So this was really, it was a really strong and powerful car. And what the next car you'll see here is the Alpina B7 Turbo, which was at the time one of the most powerful cars on the road with 300 horsepower. This was based on both the 5 and the 6 Series at that point in time. In 1983, Alpina was officially registered as an automobile manufacturer, so they weren't just a tuner anymore. So they are now a manufacturer, according to the German Federal Motor Vehicle Commission. In 2002 is actually when Alpina entered into the U.S. market, and they did so with the and it was very limited, so they only cars. So very exclusive, and I think one of the best designed cars that they've ever made. Also, they have a really strong heritage, I would say, in racing. So they really like to make sure that their cars really meet the needs of their customers, and they did so with basically using touring cars. And what you'll see here is actually Burkhard talking to Niki Lauda. So between 1968 and 1973, they had several drivers on their payroll, from James Hunt to Niki Lauda and Hans Stuck, obviously. So really a good heritage with the brand, and the cars perform like they should, according to racing heritage. I just wanted to mention this car very quickly. So the XB7 is the first badged Alpina SAV that we've ever produced. However, it's not the first time that they've been involved in the development of our SAVs. In 1999, they helped co-develop the BMW X5 4.6. So they've been involved with us for a long time, and really done a great job with some of these products. They really were involved with the entire powertrain and drivetrain of that car, which was really a great establishment. So just to give a tuning where they do all their sorry, excuse me, do all their cold weather and hot weather testing, but they also take their cars to Nardo and Miramas. And I wanted to highlight this because they really take the cars and put them through their paces. So one of their tests is taking their cars and driving them at top speed nonstop for 1,500 kilometers, only stopping for refueling. So it takes approximately 15 hours, but it just shows how robust the products are and how much care they put into each and every one of their products. So with that, I'll actually just jump now into the XB7. This, like I said, is the first badged Alpina SAV that we've ever produced. And there's numerous product highlights that I'll take you through here. So as you can see, the base price of this car is $141,300, and it really takes the X7 to the next level, and what we call the highest caliber. It adds a lot of presence, a lot of luxury, and a few bespoke details that really set this car apart and focus on the luxury that Alpina customers have come to admire and demand. So this is also the first time an X7 will offer 23-inch wheels. So this is something that's really impressive. So they offer a couple different wheel designs, which I'll show you later, but the 23 come in their classic Alpina design, which really adds to the presence that the car emits. They also have what we've been able to do from a market perspective is put a host of standard equipment into this car. So Oleg, if you can go to the next one. This car comes fully loaded right off the line. Everything that you see in the two columns on the left is standard, from metallic paint to extended merino leather, heated front rear seats, heated steering wheel, head-up display, our surround view camera, and latest and greatest driver assistance systems. Customers really only have to choose how the car looks and fine-tune their details to get more personalized from that perspective. But there really isn't much they need to add in terms of equipment. So just to give you a brief insight into some of the competition and where we stack up, we feel that we really are ahead of the pack in terms of our direct competitors. This car produces 612 horsepower, 590 pound-feet of torque, and goes 0 to 60 in 4 seconds. So for a car that weighs over 5,800 pounds, this is truly impressive and definitely leads the pack in terms of everything, all the cars that you see on the screen here. So we actually made it available for you to take track experience, everything that I highlight here on the screen for yourselves. So one of the main things that they add is their own high performance cooling system. So this really makes it, like I said, very, very robust, and it can handle the tests that they do. They put this car through its paces to make sure that it can handle everything that you would come to expect from an Alpina. They've also tuned our ZF 8-speed sport transmission to have Alpina logic to it, and integrated this into their Alpina Switchtronic system on the steering wheel. And they also integrated their own Alpina exhaust system, which produces a very, very nice sound and also enables greater performance. It comes standard, obviously, with a 2-axle air suspension, which is standard on a regular X7, but Alpina did take that and tune it slightly. It also comes standard with an integral active steering system, which, again, Alpina did tune, and it gives it a very direct steering response with great feedback. On top of that, active roll stabilization comes standard. So when you take this on the road, this car, even though it weighs a lot, you actually don't feel much body roll. So it's a really, really poised and direct product that we're very excited to have. layer suspension. With the two-axle layer suspension, the X7 is able to raise and lower by 40 millimeters, so about 1.5 inches in either direction. This was very important for Alpina to maintain, and they actually are able to go 10 millimeters lower than us. So they at least minus 20 millimeters. In the ride height through basically 20 miles an hour or so. But it helps in great respects, especially in terms of performance and design. So looking at the exterior, which is really what Alpina added a kit to it with their typical Alpina spoiler and Alpina lettering underneath. They've added a splitter system and aerodynamic covers over the side profile and over the wheels. Looking at the rear, you can see one of the main highlights is their Alpina quad exhaust system and their rear valence. On top of this, they'll have two exclusive colors. So Alpina Blue will go into production in December, and Alpina Green will be available from April next year. And like I mentioned, they'll have two wheel designs, so 3 different wheels. So we'll have two 21-inch Alpina dynamic wheels. One of them will be an all-season. And then we'll have an upgrade 23-inch Alpina Classic wheel, which will be available with Pirelli P0s. And Alpina has taken and equipped the car with their proprietary Alpina brake system. So 395, 36 millimeters in the front and 398, 28 millimeters in the back. Moving on to the interior, Alpina takes the X7 and adds a couple fine touches around the car. So they have Alpina specific illuminated door sills, an Alpina production plaque, which I have a close-up later on. It comes standard with glass controls. So it's our crystal gear shift lever and iDrive controller. And they've actually included the Alpina logo kind of embossed in that on the iDrive controller, which looks really nice. And of course, the Alpina comes with their Alpina steering wheel with Lavalina leather. Moving over, you can see that the instrument cluster is their typical Alpina blue and green with red dials, and something that Alpina customers have come to know and love. And finally, we do have a new exclusive Alpina trim available. So there are 2 normal Alpina trims, usually based on piano black, but they've introduced on this car an Alpina walnut, which is basically an open pore design, but it's a walnut wood that has a more black appearance and really looks very nice. And of course, you can see here it has their typical Alpina logo embedded in it. And finally, just to show you a little bit more of a close-up here, you can see the Alpina production plaque and the Alpina etching within our glass controls. So this is definitely something that enhances the luxurious feel and the elements that you've come to know and love with Alpina. So we're really very excited. I mentioned this car is produced in Spartanburg. So like the great X7 that we have, it's actually the first time Alpina is producing the car in the US. And what they actually have done, instead of sending the car back to Germany, to Buchloe, to do the to meet the demands of what Alpina delivers. So the plant here is very proud of that fact. And we're very proud of the fact that it's produced in the US, really for the US. It's a very market-oriented car, and we're really excited to have it available. So with that, I'll hand it over to John Kelly, who can take you through the M2 CS.
Great. Thanks, Mike. That was great. Let me just double check. All right. So hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. My name is John Kelly. I'm the product manager for BMW M. And in the next few minutes, I want to give you a brief introduction to the first ever M2 CS. So you've probably seen a fair amount of information over the last few months about the CS, because we did have the start of communication several months ago. But if I'm not mistaken, you haven't had the chance to drive it yet. So I'm super excited to get you behind the wheel next week, both on the street, so you can see how streetable it is, how comfortable, easy to drive it is, but of course on the racetrack, where you can thoroughly enjoy the outstanding dynamics of the vehicle. I'll also be with you next week, so if you want to discuss this at any length, I'd be happy to go through it with you there as well. Now, what I'd like to do first is, before we get into the actual content of the car, is talk to you a little bit about, putting this in context, where this car fits into the lineup. So for this, we'll look at the levels of M, thank you. If you use 2 Series as an example here, we have at this M Performance layer, this would be like an M240i. Then we have at the M High Performance layer, this would be the M2 when we launched it for model year 2016. And then, of course, we raised the bar for model year 19 when we introduced the M2 Competition. This is when we introduced the S55 engine with more power and a number of other enhancements. Now we've raised the bar yet again with the M2 CS. This represents the top tier for the M2. The car has been thoroughly enhanced, both inside and out, to secure this top position. It's also worth noting that in these 3 different variants that we've had for the M2, that we've maintained a manual transmission, including with the M2 CS, which I'll get to in just a minute. So what I'd like to do next is give you a bit of information regarding the substance of this car, which makes it so special, so high performing, so much fun to drive. And this could be beneficial in terms of being a complement to what you'll experience next week when you're actually behind the wheel of the car on the street and on the track. So in terms of product substance, the M2, it uses the M2 Competition as the basis for the car, which is a fantastic car in its own right. However, this is a very different vehicle than the M2 Comp, both visually and dynamically. The CS takes the M2 to the next level. It has more power, lightweight components, more exclusivity, better driving dynamics, brake changes, and so forth. This makes for a great car on the road, but an even better car on the racetrack. We have a number of new, let's say, components or content features that I want to tell you about, some of which are first evers for the M2 and really enhance this product. Starting with the drivetrain. So when you look at the heart of the car, the engine, we have an S55 engine here, which has been optimized for an additional 39 horsepower, so 444 horsepower. This allows the car to get to 60 in under 4 seconds for the first time, 3.8 seconds when equipped with the double clutch gearbox. Speaking of which, bolted to that engine is one of 2 different transmissions. If I'm not mistaken, you'll have both of them next week to be able to experience. We have a standard 6-speed manual, and then we have the optional 7-speed double clutch gearbox. Now that's the engine, and then on to the chassis. So we have adaptive M suspension on the M2 CS. This is a first for the M2. We haven't had the adaptive suspension prior to this. And what's really great about this, and this is one of the parts of the car that I love so much, because it allows the car to be very well rounded. So when the suspension is in a comfort setting, it's actually very comfortable, easy to drive. But when you want to drive the car on a track and you put it in sport mode, it firms up the car, firms up the chassis, and it feels like it is properly tuned for the track. Now, when you have the power, you have the chassis, you also need the braking. So we do have a couple of changes here as well. So the standard brakes on the car are our M, it's a compound brake setup. These are M Sport brakes, similar to what we have on the M2 Competition. Here we have red calipers, which we don't offer on the Competition. But also for the first time on the M2, we have carbon ceramic brakes available as an option. So for the customer that wants to take the car to the track on a regular basis, you have this higher performing brake setup available. We also have a change to the tire setup here. So we have standard, it's a high performance tire, non-run flat, similar to what we've seen before. but we have an option for a Cup tire. So this would be a Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tire. Very high performing, very dynamic on the track. In terms of wheels, this is different also, and we have one of two different wheels. They're actually the same wheel styling with different surface finishes. So you can have this wheel, it's a 19-inch forged wheel in either high gloss black or the matte gold, which you see here in this image. These are, it's a 19-inch wheel, and they're staggered width, of course, front to rear. We also have an optimized exhaust system for optimized harmonics for the CS, and it has stainless steel tips with the M description in them. Now, in terms of some of the other, let's say, aero components and weight components, we have a few unique differences here as well on the CS. So we have a carbon fiber roof. This is the first time on a series production M2 that we've had the carbon roof, which not only looks great, looks sporty, but it's also functional in that it both reduces weight and reduces the center of gravity, or lowers the center of gravity, I should say. Now, coupled with that, we have a couple of aerodynamic aids with the carbon spoiler and then the carbon front splitter, which both help with improving downforce, as well as a carbon rear diffuser for reduced lift. And now we also have the carbon engine hood, and this is one, I can't wait for you to see it in person because it looks fantastic. It's not only functional in that it's lighter weight than a traditional hood, but it also has different geometry. It looks a little bit different. It looks very aggressive, and it's also vented. Now, moving on to the next slide on the interior, we have a number of changes here as well. We have a carbon center console. We have carbon door handle covers and trim. We have carbon trim on the M2 competition also. That's an open pore carbon. This is a different one where it has a clear coat over it, so it's a smooth finish. As I mentioned, we have your choice of the standard manual gearbox as well as the double clutch gearbox. We have a grippy M steering wheel in Alcantara, so especially on the track, it feels fantastic, and it definitely helps the wheels stay in your hands there. We have the Misano blue paint. So Misano blue is a color that we've offered previously, but not on the M2. So it's first for the M2, and it can be, of course, recognizable as a CS if it's in this color, and it looks fantastic. We have different seats as well. So the seats are based on the ones we had in the M4 CS. So I'll show you a picture of them in just a minute, but they're very aggressively bolstered, and they have cutouts in the backrest, and it's also covered in merino leather now. We also have badging both on the instrument panel and on the door sills. Now here you see just a quick front shot of the car to compare the M2 competition to the CS. And what you see here is from top to bottom, it is uniquely different, uniquely identifiable. Of course, there's the Misano blue paint that I mentioned, but then you have that carbon, from top to bottom, you have that carbon roof, you have that carbon hood with a unique geometry, you have that carbon splitter. And then moving on to the side of the car, again, it's these things that I mentioned that really jump out at you as being a CS. It's unique, it's more dynamic, it's more aggressive. Here you see one that jumps out at you, of course, is the matte gold wheel with the red calipers. And then, of course, the hood and splitter as well. And then on the interior, this is what I mentioned about the seats, where it is a different seat in that it has the cutouts in the backrest. It's also a merino leather as compared to the Dakota leather that we've offered previously. So it's a higher grade material, as well as it has red contrast stitching throughout. And then just to highlight a couple of the key points for the car in summary, the MSRP is starting at $83,600. The horsepower, 444, as I mentioned before, which is 39 higher than what we had on the M2 competition. 0 to 60 with the DCT, under 4 seconds, 3.8. Top speed, 174 miles an hour. This, actually, I don't think I mentioned this previously, but the car also comes standard with the M Drivers package. This allows for the higher top speed and also a day at the Performance Center. The car is already in production, and it will be reaching customers here in the US pretty soon, expected for next month. So overall, just to finish it up, what I'm super excited about this car is the fact that it's such a well-rounded, enhanced package. It's not only does it look great and have unique content, but it's that well-rounded behavior of power, handling, braking, and of course, still with a manual gearbox. So again, that's it for the M2 CS. I'll be with you next week. So if you have any questions or would like to discuss it further, I'd be happy to. And then I'll pass it back to Alex.
Thanks, John. Yeah, that concludes our presentations for today. And as I said earlier on, I'd like to open the floor now to any questions that you may have for our product managers here online. But again, reminder, they will also be available for interviews next week on site. But do we have any questions? It's very quiet so far.
Yeah, I'd like to ask something. We can get into this at greater length next week, but do all of these new cars have over-the-air updates? And we can get into it at greater length next week, but can you briefly? They all have it, or is that still to come, or what?
John Kelly, would you like to take that question?
Actually, Alex, that's something that I can certainly get the answers. We have a technology manager within our group. Some of the cars I believe do, but for example, like the M2 doesn't. So for that, I would say that it's probably best if we, unless somebody else from the product team can speak at more length, I would say we get the answer for next week.
Yeah, Jim, we can
Yeah,
pull that
sure,
together.
that's fine. I'll just give you a heads up on that.
Okay, great. Yeah, we'll get you that list for when we see you next week.
I trust we're getting copies of the slides, no?
Yes, this is it's one of the housekeeping items that I wanted to finish the call with. We will make this presentation available to you. We will also have retail pricing guides, the press kits, photography, Monronis, all available to you in an email that's going to be sent out on Sunday night. And a link to all this information is also included in your welcome letters. We will be posting some photography following your attendance at the event also, so you'll have specific event photography. And if there are any specific shots that you'd like of the vehicles, our photographer is happy to work with you, as well as our videographer who's available for stand-ups that you may need in terms of footage, along with B-roll footage.
This is Jim Motivale, another Jim, asking you a question. Are you ever going to build an M7? And do you think the public is sometimes confused when you have cars that are M enhanced and then M designations like M2, but then cars with the M in front of the number, and it gets a little confusing to the public, doesn't it?
So I could take the M7 question. So at this point in time, obviously I can't go into too much detail about future product offering, but we do not have an M7. We have currently an M760, which is based on our V12 engine, but that, like you just mentioned, that's an M performance model, which has an M badge, but is not a full M7.
Yeah, but do you think it confuses the public that it's not an M7, but it's an M badged?
Yeah, maybe.
To be honest,
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, John, you can take it.
I was just
Yeah,
all you, Mike. I'll wait my turn.
Yeah, sorry. To be honest, I don't think so. So there's definitely different levels of them, and in the U.S., we really want to focus and make sure that the M products stand apart. Like there's a lot of great heritage there within the brand. So M performance models, they're tuned by M, but they're still based on their AG counterparts, what we say AG, so basically produced by BMW and not by M. So we definitely want to highlight the fact that M has had a hand in it, but it's not yet a full M model. And John, I don't know if you wanted to add to that.
No, I just wanted to add the point which I mentioned in the M2 section, which was this levels of M, and the fact that these M performance vehicles, which are clearly denoted by the name, that you have your traditional M2, M5, and so forth, but then if you have the full the longer designation, let's say, so like an M5 versus an M550, the 550 would be the M performance automobile, whereas the M5 would be the high performance automobile. They both fall within M, but it's something that we've had these now for several years, and it's something that we will continue with to show that we have within the M family different layers, different levels of M, if you will. So from the performance level to the high performance level to the competition level to the CS level. So even with an M2, you have M2. You have basically 4 levels there if you consider the M2, the first M2 we launched in model year 16, with the M240, then M2 competition, then M2 CS. So you have different layers within that M family.
Okay.
Thank you, John and Mike, for these answers. Do we have any more questions from the group?
Let me ask you something, since Mike's sound was cutting on and off a lot. Can you just reiterate about the Alpina being built in Spartanburg? I didn't quite catch all that.
Sorry about that. I didn't realize my connection was spotty. Yeah, so Alpina, the XB7 is the first time that we're building an Alpina product in the US. And on top of that, instead of sending the car across to get upfit in Buchloe, which is normally what happens with the other Alpina products, Alpina came over and trained. We have a special vehicle operations center in the Spartanburg plant. So basically, when the car comes off the line, it goes directly into the special vehicle operations center. And Alpina had a direct hand in training all of those employees to meet the standards that Alpina normally has within their facility in Buchloe. So they do all the upfitting, and the full development of the car and production of the car is done in the US at Spartanburg.
Exclusively worldwide?
Yes. Yeah, the worldwide production is done here and exported wherever it needs to go.
Okay, yeah, you were going a little max headroom there for a while.
Sorry, yeah, Zoom.
Thanks, I'm dating myself, I know.
Any further questions in regards to any other products or things that you may have missed part of the little Wi-Fi glitch that we had with Mike? Okay. Well, if there are
there's one thing I'd like to add on Alpina there. Alpina normally integrates most of the production of the vehicle on the assembly line, on our assembly line, but there's a certain time for each assembly process on the line. So sometimes Alpina things don't fit in that. And so that requires a finishing, and that's when they do their hand finishing when the vehicles go to Buchloe. Alpina has had products that were built in the US and the Spartanburg plant, and then they would go to Buchloe to be finished, but they were not products for the US market. One was a Z4, and there's a diesel X3 that they sell in Europe. So the vehicles would be almost finished in Spartanburg, shipped to Buchloe, finished in Buchloe by the craftsmen there and craftspeople there, and then distributed around the world, but not to the US. Because the XB7 is such a huge model for the US market, there needed to be a finishing component here in the US, and that's what SVC is doing, the special vehicle center, SVC, yeah, SVC. Yep. So that I think hopefully clarifies a little bit there.
Yeah. So it's not gonna,
and sorry, there was one more point I wanted to make. Yeah. And the last point is that Andy Bovensiepen, who's the proprietor of Alpina at the moment, he said when you do the test drives for the XB7, you must take them on the racetrack. So you're probably going to be a little bit surprised, but you're going to see a lineup of XB7s ready to go out on track next Monday and Wednesday.
Thanks, Tom.
No problem.
Any further questions before I get to our final housekeeping items for this call? Okay. So first of all, thank you all for joining us. I hope that you found this Zoom call worthwhile and provided you with some good information for our upcoming event. We look forward to seeing you. I wanted just to quickly remind you to please dress accordingly. It looks like the weather may be a little bit chilly, and there's also a possibility of some rain. So please make sure you bring your rain jacket and appropriate shoes. For the racetrack, obviously you'll have an opportunity to get on track. If you'd like to bring your own helmet, please feel free to do so. If you do not have a helmet, we're happy to provide you one through the track. And last but not least, Oleg has worked very hard to put together retail pricing guides, press kits, photography, and I think other important information for you to compose your articles with. That is all available via the link in your welcome letter, as well as an updated email that you'll receive on Sunday night, and another follow-up email post-event, which will include photography from the event. As I mentioned earlier too, we have a photographer on site as well as a videographer. So if there are any special requests that you need in terms of material of specific angles, shots, or you with the car, or you in the car, or video needs, please let us know. We're happy to assist you with that. We look forward to seeing you. I think it's going to be a great event. We're coming towards the end of the track season, our ability to be on track, so we're very excited to squeeze one more day in. If you are not feeling well or have any concerns about your personal health, please let us know over the weekend. Tom, Oleg, and I will be checking emails, and just for safety's sake and everybody's well-being, if you're not feeling well, please let us know. We're happy always to try to provide you with a vehicle from our press fleet when we can. It's going to be a little while after we complete this event, but please let us know for everybody's sake.
What about masks? Is it BYO?
Yes, masks are mandatory for the event, and the lunch will be a boxed lunch that you can either have inside with the garage doors open. You can have it outside in your personal car, or just in our lunch area. We have some tables set up. We have individual tables set up for you, so each guest will have his or her own table to eat his or her lunch at. Our product experts will be available for interviews. Obviously, 6 feet social distancing rules apply. We will, of course, have some backup masks available for you, as well as hand sanitizer on site. Should something happen to your mask, should it get wet or otherwise, we'll have some backup masks available. So, I hope that answers the question, Jim. Are there any last questions pertaining to the housekeeping? If not, we will